The quantum vault door dissolved into nothing, and 12-year-old Kyle pressed his translucent fingers against empty air where solid titanium should have been. His heart hammered as alarms shrieked through the obsidian station, red emergency lights painting his phase-shifted body in shades of blood. He had 30 seconds before the neural suppressors activated, 20 before his foster father's security team traced the breach, and exactly 9 seconds before he had to choose between stealing the memory crystal that could save his dying sister or protecting the man who'd raised him from prison. The crystal pulsed on its pedestal, containing classified data worth more than 1,000 lives. Behind him, footsteps echoed down the corridor. Commander Vex's voice cut through the chaos, not angry, just sad. "Kyle, don't do this. Whatever they promised you, it's a lie." Kyle's hand hovered over the crystal, his phase ability flickered, his body threatening to solidify at the worst possible moment. "I'm sorry," he whispered, knowing Vex couldn't hear him yet, knowing that in 3 seconds when he grabbed the crystal, everything would change forever. "I'm so sorry." Welcome to the depths of space, where impossible choices echo through steel corridors, and family is whatever you fight hardest to keep. Enjoy the journey. 6 months earlier, Kyle had been invisible in a different way. Not phase-shifted, just forgotten. He sat in the corner of the Obsidian Station's mess hall, pushing synth protein around his plate, watching the other kids laugh and trade stories about their families. Real families with blood connections and shared DNA, not station orphans like him. "You're doing it again," Maya said, sliding into the seat across from him. His sister, not by blood but by choice, looked worse today. The crystal plague was spreading, her left arm nearly translucent where the molecular degradation had advanced. She had maybe 4 months left before her entire body crystallized. "Doing what?" Kyle asked, forcing himself to eat. The protein tasted like recycled sadness, being tragic and brooding. "It's very dramatic, but you're terrible at it. Your face is too honest." She was right. Kyle had never been good at hiding his emotions, which was ironic considering he could hide his entire body from view. His phase ability, the genetic mutation that let him shift between solid and intangible states, should have made him a master of deception. Instead, he just felt like a ghost pretending to be real. "How are you feeling?" he asked, nodding toward her crystallized arm. Maya flexed her transparent fingers, the station lights passing through them like stained glass. "Like I'm slowly turning into a very expensive paperweight. But I've got time still. The doctor said 4 months, maybe 5, if I'm lucky. That's not funny. It's a little funny. Besides, someone has to keep your spirits up. You're the one with the power to walk through walls, but I'm the one who has to stay positive." She grinned, but Kyle saw the fear behind it. They'd been together for 3 years, ever since Commander Vex had found them both scavenging in the station's lower levels. Kyle was 9 then, Maya was 11 and already showing early signs of crystal plague. Vex had taken them in, given them a home, made them part of his security team's extended family. The commander appeared as if summoned by thought, his massive frame filling the doorway. Vex was Talarian, with silver skin that shifted colors with his moods. Right now he was deep blue, concerned. "Kyle, Maya, my office, please." They exchanged glances. Vex's office usually meant bad news or worse news. They followed him through the station's gleaming corridors, past the quantum processing centers and neural databanks, up to the security command level where Vex oversaw everything. His office was sparse, military efficient, except for one wall covered in photos. Station orphans he'd helped over the years, each one smiling, each one saved. Kyle and Maya were in the corner, a candid shot from last year's solstice celebration. Maya's test results came back, Vex said without preamble. He never believed in softening blows. It's spreading faster than projected. 2 months, possibly 3. The room tilted. Kyle grabbed the desk edge, forgetting to stay solid. His hand passed through the metal before he caught himself. 2 months? But the doctors said... The doctors were optimistic. "I'm sorry." Vex's color shifted to gray, genuine sorrow. "There's no cure. We've tried everything approved by the Galactic Medical Council. Every treatment, every experimental protocol available to us." "Available to us," Kyle repeated, catching the emphasis. "But there are treatments not available?" Vex's colors flickered, a warning sign. "Kyle, don't." The synthesis procedure, Maya said quietly. The one the council banned. Vex sighed, his colors swirling between blue and gray. The synthesis procedure requires a neural template crystal, basically a complete memory backup of a healthy nervous system that can be used to rebuild damaged neural pathways. It's incredibly effective for crystal plague. Then why is it banned? Kyle demanded. Because harvesting template crystals requires extracting the complete consciousness of a living donor. Not copying, extracting. The donor's mind is destroyed in the process, leaving them an empty shell. It's murder with extra steps. Vex leaned forward, his gaze intense. The few crystals that exist are locked in high-security vaults, classified as dangerous weapons. Anyone caught with one faces life imprisonment. Maya stood abruptly, her crystallized arm catching the light. I won't let Kyle do something stupid to save me. We both know him. He's probably already planning something heroic and idiotic. I'm sitting right here, Kyle protested. Exactly. You're terrible at being subtle. Vex's colors stabilized to a calm green. I'm telling you both this because I don't want false hope or desperate plans. Maya, your family will make your remaining time comfortable. Kyle, I need your word you won't do anything foolish. Kyle looked at his sister, at her transparent arm, at her brave smile that didn't hide the terror of crystallizing to death. I promise. He lied, and felt something break inside him. That night, Kyle couldn't sleep. His quarters were small but comfortable, more home than anywhere he'd lived. Photos covered one wall, memories of the makeshift family Vex had built. His communicator chimed. Unknown caller. Kyle hesitated, then answered. A distorted voice spoke, gender and species obscured by filters. Kyle, we know about Maya. We can help. Who is this? Friends. We have access to a neural template crystal. We can perform the synthesis procedure, save your sister's life. Kyle's breath caught. What's the cost? Smart boy. The cost is simple. We need something from Commander Vex's vault. Security codes to the Obsidian data core. You're the only one who can phase through the vault's quantum barriers. That's treason. Those codes protect military secrets, civilian data, lives. Kyle's voice was steady despite his racing heart. The distorted voice on the communicator softened slightly. And your sister isn't a life worth protecting? We're not terrorists, Kyle. We're reformists. The current Galactic Council hoards technology that could save billions. We want to redistribute that knowledge. No one gets hurt. We just need access. Kyle's hand trembled against the communicator. How do I know you really have a crystal? We'll prove it. Tomorrow, the medical bay's storage unit will receive an unmarked package. Inside will be a partial dose of synthesized neural repair compound, enough to stabilize Maya for 2 weeks. Consider it a down payment on trust. The connection ended abruptly. Kyle sat in the dark, his body flickering between states, solid and ghost, real and impossible. He thought about Vex's wall of photos, all those saved children. He thought about Maya's brave smile and transparent fingers. He thought about promises, and what they meant when everything was impossible. The package arrived exactly as promised. Kyle watched from the medical bay's observation deck as Dr. Senna, a crystalline medic with fractal skin patterns, opened the unmarked container. Inside was a single vial of luminescent blue liquid. Dr. Senna ran it through the analyzer 3 times, her fractal patterns shifting through colors that indicated confusion, then surprise, then something close to awe. She called Maya in immediately. Kyle followed his sister into the treatment room, his heart hammering. This compound, Dr. Senna said slowly, turning the vial in the light, shouldn't exist. The molecular structure is theoretically possible, but practically impossible to synthesize without equipment that was banned 40 years ago. Maya's crystallized arm caught the light, scattering rainbow patterns. Is it dangerous? Dangerous. No. Miraculous? Yes. This is enough to stabilize crystal plague progression for approximately 2 weeks. I have no idea where it came from. Dr. Senna administered the compound directly into Maya's crystallized arm. The effect was immediate and beautiful. The transparency began to recede, slowly, like ice melting in reverse. Not healing completely, but stabilizing, stopping the relentless progression. Maya flexed her fingers, still partially crystallized but more solid than they'd been in months. I can feel them again. Really feel them. She looked at Kyle, tears streaming. Who would do this? Who would just send this anonymously? Kyle forced himself to meet her eyes. I don't know. Maybe someone who lost someone to crystal plague. The lie tasted like metal on his tongue. That night, the anonymous caller contacted him again. Your sister looks better. The treatment worked exactly as promised. Are you ready to discuss terms? You've been watching us. We've been protecting our investment. If I steal those security codes, people could die. The Obsidian data core contains military intelligence, civilian identities, protected locations. And if you don't, your sister dies. Guaranteed. In 2 weeks, the stabilization ends and the crystallization accelerates. She'll have days, not months. The voice paused. We're not asking you to kill anyone, KL. Open a door. That's exactly how people justify terrible things. And you're justified in letting your sister die to protect abstract moral principles? How noble. I'm sure she'll appreciate your ethics while she's crystallizing. Kyle's hands clenched, his phase ability flickering. You're manipulating me. I'm giving you options. Life is manipulation. Commander Vex manipulated you into loyalty by giving you a home. Maya manipulates you with love and shared history. We're just more honest about it. We want something, you want something. Simple transaction. Nothing about this is simple. No, it's not. But it is necessary. You have 1 week to decide. After that, the offer expires and Maya's stabilization ends. Choose quickly, Kyle. Time is something your sister doesn't have. Kyle found himself at the station's observation deck after the call ended. Space stretched infinite and cold beyond the reinforced glass, stars scattered like accusations. Can't sleep? Commander Vex's voice came from the shadows. Kyle solidified quickly, caught. Commander, I was just thinking. I know that look. I wore it myself once, long ago. The look of someone carrying an impossible weight. Vex moved to stand beside him. Someone contacted you about Maya, offered you a deal. Kyle's heart stopped. How did you know? Because I would have done the same thing at your age. Someone you love is dying, a stranger offers hope, and suddenly every principle seems negotiable. Vex sat heavily. When I was young, I had a brother, Kieran. He got sick with neural cascade syndrome, basically a death sentence. Someone approached me with a cure. All they wanted was access to my father's military command codes. What did you do? Kyle asked, afraid of the answer. I stole the codes, gave them to the people who promised to save Kieran. They kept their word, gave him the cure, and he lived. Vex's colors darkened to deep purple old grief. The codes I stole were used to attack a civilian transport convoy. 300 people died, including children. My brother lived, and I killed 300 strangers. That's not the same thing, Kyle whispered. Isn't it? I told myself I was just opening a door, just providing information. What people did with it wasn't my responsibility. Vex's hand settled on Kyle's shoulder. I'm telling you this because I see myself in you. The desperation, the willingness to sacrifice everything for family. And I'm telling you that 30 years later, I still see their faces. But Kieran lived. Your brother survived. He did. For 6 months. Then the guilt destroyed him. He couldn't live knowing his cure cost 300 lives. He walked out an airlock on his 18th birthday. Vex's colors flickered between purple and gray. So I didn't save him. I just delayed his death and murdered 300 people along the way. What am I supposed to do? Just let Maya die? No. You fight. You search for legitimate options, you advocate, you push the medical council to reconsider the ban, you do everything possible within the boundaries of law and ethics. And if that's not enough, then you make peace with the impossible. You hold her hand while she crystallizes. You tell her you love her. You let her go knowing you didn't compromise who you are. Vex stood. I know that sounds cruel. But the person you become by making dark choices doesn't disappear when the crisis ends. After Vex left, Kyle sat alone watching stars and thinking about 300 dead strangers and a brother who couldn't live with being saved. His communicator remained silent, but the choice ticked closer with every heartbeat. For 10 seconds he let himself imagine what it felt like to walk out an airlock rather than live with impossible choices. Then he collapsed on the deck gasping. Not today, not yet. But he understood Kieran better than he wanted to. The next morning, Kyle found Maya in the recreation center, playing quantum chess against herself. Her partially crystallized fingers moved pieces across the holographic board with renewed strength. "You're getting better," he said, sitting across from her. "Liar. I'm getting stabilized. There's a difference." She moved her quantum knight through 3 possible positions simultaneously. "Dr. Senna says the compound will last maybe 2.5 weeks. After that, it's back to aggressive crystallization. Maybe they'll find something else by then," Kyle offered weakly. Maya laughed, not unkindly. "And maybe I'll spontaneously develop the ability to phase through reality like you. We both know neither is happening." She captured his king in 4 parallel timelines. Checkmate across all probable futures. "See, I'm getting better at accepting inevitability. I won't accept it. I know. That's why I love you and why I'm worried about you." She reset the board carefully. "Someone offered you a deal, didn't they? Some kind of miracle cure in exchange for something terrible?" Kyle's face must have shown his shock because Maya smiled sadly. "I told you, you're the worst at hiding your emotions. Plus, mysterious miracle compounds don't just appear. Someone wants something from you." "I haven't decided anything," Kyle said carefully. "Good. Because I'm deciding for you. No deals, no compromises, no trading your soul for my body." Her crystallized fingers caught the light, scattering rainbows across the chess pieces. "I've had 3 years more than anyone expected. That's 3 years of memories, laughter, eventually beating you at chess." "That's enough." "It's not enough for me. That's your problem, little brother. You think love means keeping people alive at any cost. Sometimes love means letting go." She leaned forward, her voice intense. "Promise me, KL. Really promise this time. Whatever deal they offered, you walk away. You let me crystallize with my dignity intact and your conscience clean." Kyle looked at his sister, at her brave face and transparent fingers and the absolute conviction in her eyes that her life wasn't worth his soul. "I promise," he said, and this time he meant it. He meant it so much it physically hurt, like something vital tearing inside his chest. Maya smiled, and they played quantum chess until her treatment alarm chimed. She won 3 games out of 5, a personal record. Kyle let her enjoy the victories, knowing they might be her last. That night, the anonymous caller tried to contact him again. Kyle deleted the message without listening. His communicator chimed again, and again. Finally, he answered. "I'm not interested. Find someone else. There is no one else. Only you can phase through the quantum barriers." "Then you're out of luck." "I'm not betraying Commander Vex." The voice on the other end changed, no longer filtered and distorted. Now it was clear, familiar, and utterly impossible. "Kyle, it's me. Please don't disconnect." Maya's voice came through the communicator like a knife through his heart. "Maya? What are you doing? The people who sent the compound contacted me 3 days ago. They explained everything. The deal they offered you, the security codes, all of it." Her voice was steady but carried an edge of desperation. "I told them no. I told them you'd never agree. But Kyle, they showed me something, evidence that changes everything." "What evidence?" Kyle's mind raced. This was a trick, manipulation. The Obsidian data core doesn't just contain military secrets. It contains the Medical Council's suppressed research, hundreds of cures for diseases they've classified as unprofitable to treat. Crystal Plague has a cure, KL. A real cure that works without harvesting consciousness. The Council buried it 20 years ago because treating Crystal Plague is more profitable than curing it. Kyle sank onto his bed. "That's impossible. Commander Vex would know." "Would he? The classification level is above his security clearance, above almost everyone's clearance. The only way to prove it exists is to access the data core directly." Maya's breathing was ragged. "They're not asking you to steal military intelligence or endanger lives. They're asking you to expose a conspiracy that's killed millions, including me, unless you help. This is exactly what they'd say to manipulate us." "I know. That's why I spent 3 days trying to disprove it. I accessed every public record, every declassified document. The patterns are there, Kyle. Suppressed research, silenced whistleblowers, families bankrupted by treatment costs when a cure existed all along." Kyle pressed his palms against his eyes. "Why are you telling me this? You made me promise to walk away. Because I was wrong. I thought I was being noble, accepting death with dignity. But if there's a cure that's been deliberately withheld, if people are dying for profit, then my dignity doesn't matter. Justice matters." Her voice broke slightly. I'm scared, Kale. I'm so scared of crystallizing, of fading away piece by piece. If there's even a chance this is real, we have to try. I need to think, Kyle managed, his voice barely audible. You have 48 hours. After that, they're moving the template crystal to another sector. This is our only window. The connection ended, leaving Kyle alone with doubt eating through his certainty like acid through steel. Everything he thought he knew was shifting, becoming uncertain, impossible to trust. The next morning, Kyle went to Commander Vex, not to confess, but to test Maya's claims. Commander, can I ask you about the medical council? Vex looked up from his security reports, colors shifting to curious yellow. That's an odd topic. What specifically? Why would they ban the synthesis procedure if it works? Wouldn't saving lives matter more than the ethics of how the template crystals are created? Ideally, yes. But the Council operates on principles of bodily autonomy. Destroying one consciousness to save another crosses a fundamental line. But what if there were alternatives? Other cures they didn't pursue because treatment is more profitable. Vex's colors flickered, a warning sign. Kyle, are you suggesting the Medical Council is deliberately withholding cures for financial gain? That's a serious accusation. I'm just asking hypothetically. Hypothetically, large organizations sometimes prioritize sustainability over optimal outcomes. But conspiracy theories about suppressed cures are common among people desperate for hope. They're almost always false. Almost always? Nothing is absolute. But the burden of proof is extraordinary. Vex leaned forward, his massive frame casting shadows across the desk. Someone's been filling your head with ideas. The same someone who sent that compound? Kyle's face betrayed him again. Vex sighed deeply. I thought so. Kyle, this is a classic manipulation tactic. Create doubt about authority figures, claim hidden conspiracies, position themselves as truth-tellers fighting oppression. It makes you feel noble while doing exactly what they want. What if they're right, though? What if there really is a cure? Then we pursue it through legitimate channels. We file formal inquiries. We advocate for transparency. We don't steal classified data based on unverified claims from anonymous sources. Vex stood, his colors darkening to serious blue. I know you're desperate. I know Maya's running out of time. But Kyle, desperate people make mistakes that haunt them forever. Don't be me 30 years ago. Be better. After leaving Vex's office, Kyle felt more confused than ever. Everything the commander said made sense. But so did everything Maya said. How did you choose between two versions of truth when you couldn't verify either? He spent the day researching, diving into public records and declassified documents. The patterns Maya mentioned were there, subtle but present. Research projects that mysteriously ended. Scientists who left the medical council under unclear circumstances. Families who claimed cures existed but were dismissed as conspiracy theorists. But patterns weren't proof. Patterns could be coincidence or confirmation bias, seeing what you wanted to see. By evening, Kyle was no closer to certainty. He found Maya in her quarters, writing in her digital journal. The crystallization had advanced slightly despite the stabilization compound. It's accelerating, she said without looking up. Dr. Senna says the compound is wearing off faster than expected. Maybe a week left, not 2. She finally met his eyes. Did you decide? I talked to Vex. He says it's manipulation, classic conspiracy theory tactics. Of course he'd say that. His entire worldview depends on trusting the system. Maya saved her journal entry carefully. I've been writing down everything. My memories, my thoughts. Everything I want you to remember about me, just in case. Don't talk like that. Why not? We've been avoiding the truth for months. I'm dying, Kale. The only question is whether I die knowing you tried everything, or die knowing you could have helped but chose comfort over courage. That's not fair, Kyle protested, feeling anger rise. None of this is fair. I'm 16 and crystallizing. You're 12 and being asked to become a thief. Vex is a good man haunted by past mistakes. The universe doesn't do fair. She stood, moving to the window where stars burned cold and distant. I used to think dying young was the worst thing that could happen. Now I think dying without meaning is worse. If exposing a conspiracy gives my death purpose, if it helps others avoid crystal plague, then maybe it's worth the risk. And if it's not a conspiracy, if it's just manipulation and I steal those codes for nothing, then we were wrong and we face the consequences together. But at least we tried. At least we didn't just accept injustice because fighting felt too hard. Maya turned back to him, her partially crystallized face catching the light. I can't make this choice for you, but I can tell you that I'd rather die fighting for truth than live knowing I stayed silent. That night, Kyle phased through the station's walls, wandering corridors as a ghost. He passed the medical bay where Dr. Senna worked late. He passed the security center where Vex monitored screens, protecting everyone who slept safely. He passed the memorial wall where names of station dead were etched in steel, reminders of lives lost. How many of those names could have been prevented if cures existed? How many if people had fought harder, risked more, chosen courage over comfort? But how many more names would be added if he was wrong? 300 people died because Vex made his desperate choice. How many would die if Kyle made his? He found himself at the quantum vault entrance without consciously choosing to go there. The door was massive, titanium reinforced with quantum barriers that prevented phase shifting. Theoretically prevented it. Kyle had been studying the barriers for months, not planning anything, just curious about his own limitations. The barriers worked by detecting phase-shifted matter and solidifying it instantly. But there was a frequency gap, a microsecond window during the barrier-S reset cycle where phase-shifted matter could slip through undetected. It would require perfect timing, absolute control, and enormous risk. One miscalculation and he'd solidify halfway through the door, dying instantly as matter occupied the same space. Impressive, isn't it? Vex's voice came from behind him. Kyle solidified quickly, his heart racing. Commander, I was just testing yourself, seeing if you could do it. Vex moved to stand beside him, studying the vault door. Your phase control is extraordinary. With precise timing, you could slip through during the reset window. You'd have maybe 30 seconds inside before the secondary barriers activated and trapped you. I wasn't actually planning to. Of course you were. You've been planning it since that compound arrived. Probably mapped every detail, calculated every risk. Vex's colors shifted through a dozen emotions too quickly to read. I don't blame you. I'd have done the same. They stood in silence, both staring at the door that separated security from chaos, certainty from doubt. How do you live with it? Kyle asked quietly. The not knowing if you made the right choice? The 300 people and your brother and all of it? Poorly, Vex admitted. Some days I think I saved lives by learning that lesson, that my mistakes taught me wisdom that prevented future tragedies. Other days I think I'm just rationalizing murder. Mostly I try to do better today than I did yesterday and hope the balance evens out eventually. Does it? No. But we persist anyway because the alternative is giving up, and giving up helps no one. Vex turned to face Kyle directly. If you're going to do this, if you're really going to steal those codes, I need you to understand something first. I will stop you. Not because I don't love you, not because I don't understand your desperation, but because my job is protecting everyone on this station, and I can't compromise that even for family. Especially not for family. I know, Kyle whispered. Good, because if you go through that door, everything changes. You become a criminal. I become your enemy. Maya becomes complicit. The family we've built breaks apart no matter how things turn out. Vex's hand settled on Kyle's shoulder one more time. I'm telling you this so you understand the real cost, not abstract principles or hypothetical consequences. You'll lose me. That's guaranteed. Vex walked away, leaving Kyle alone with the vault door and impossible choices. 24 hours remained when Kyle made his decision. Not a dramatic revelation or sudden clarity, just a quiet certainty that settled in his bones like frost. He would do it, not because he was sure it was right, but because living with Maya's death while knowing he'd chosen safety over action felt impossible. He'd rather be wrong and live with guilt than be cautious and live with regret. The distinction felt important, even if he couldn't fully explain why. He spent the morning acting normal, breakfast with Maya in the mess hall, her crystallization advancing despite her brave smile. Training session in the security center where Vex taught him advanced phase control techniques, neither of them mentioning their conversation by the vault. Afternoon studying quantum mechanics, learning the mathematical precision his ability required. Everything normal, everything a lie. You're going to do it, Maya said that evening. They sat in the observation deck watching a meteor shower paint streaks across the void. I can see it on your face, you've decided. Kyle didn't deny it. If I'm wrong, if this is manipulation and there's no suppressed cure, I need you to testify against me. Tell them I acted alone, that you tried to stop me. Maybe that'll keep you out of prison. Absolutely not. We're in this together. Maya, you're dying anyway. Don't throw away whatever time you have left in a detention cell." She punched his shoulder hard enough that it actually hurt. "Stop being noble. It's annoying. If you're stealing classified data, I'm your accomplice. That's what family means. Family means protecting each other." "Exactly. So let me protect you by making sure you're not alone." She leaned her head on his shoulder, the meteor shower reflecting in her partially transparent skin. "When are you going in?" "Tonight. The vault's security rotation changes at 0300. Vex will be off duty handling reports in his office. I'll have approximately 4 minutes before the automated systems detect the breach. 4 minutes to phase through quantum barriers, access the data core, find evidence." "Sounds easy." Maya's voice carried forced lightness. "You always were ambitious. I learned from the best." They watched meteors burn until Maya's treatment alarm chimed. She stood slowly, her movements careful as the crystallization spread. "Kyle, if something goes wrong in there, if you get trapped or hurt, I need you to know something. These 3 years with you and Vex have been the happiest of my life. The crystallization, the dying, all of it was worth it for this time. Don't let guilt poison that, okay?" "I'll try." "Liar. You're terrible at letting things go, but I love you anyway." She kissed his forehead and left, trailing crystalline particles that caught the meteor light like tears. Kyle sat alone until the observation deck emptied, until station night cycle dimmed the corridors, until 0200 when he finally moved. He'd mapped his route obsessively, through maintenance shafts where surveillance was minimal, past security checkpoints during their blind spot rotations, down to sublevel 7 where the vault waited. His phase ability felt different tonight, sharper. The vault door loomed before him at 0255, 5 minutes until Vex left his post. Kyle pressed his palm against the cold titanium, feeling the quantum barriers humming beneath the surface. The reset window lasted 0.7 seconds, occurring every 12.3 seconds. He'd need to phase through in a single perfect moment, no hesitation, no fear. Fear would kill him faster than the barriers. At 0259, footsteps echoed down the corridor. Kyle phased instinctively, his body shifting transparent as someone approached. But it wasn't security. It was Dr. Senna, her crystalline form refracting light into rainbow patterns. She walked directly to where Kyle stood invisible and spoke to the empty air. "I know you're there. Your phase shift creates a distortion I can see in the light spectrum." Kyle solidified slowly, caught. "Dr. Senna, I can explain. You're about to steal classified data to save Maya. No explanation needed." She held up a data chip. "I've been analyzing that compound they sent. The molecular structure is unlike anything I've seen in 40 years of medicine. It suggests technology and knowledge far beyond current medical council capabilities." "What does that mean?" Kyle asked carefully. "It means either someone has made extraordinary advances in secret, or they have access to very old, very suppressed research." Dr. Senna's fractal patterns shifted to determined orange. "I spent today accessing every medical database I have clearance for. There are gaps, Kyle. Decades of crystal plague research that simply vanishes from the record, around the time the synthesis ban was implemented. Not classified, just gone. Erased. That's not proof of conspiracy. No, but it's proof of something wrong, and as a doctor, I'm ethically obligated to investigate." She pressed the data chip into his hand. "This contains everything I found, every gap and inconsistency. If you're really going into that vault, if you're risking everything, then at least go in with direction. The medical research files will be in the data core's archives section, subsection Theta 7. Kyle stared at the chip. "Why are you helping me? If I get caught, you'll be implicated. Because I took an oath to preserve life and pursue truth. If there's even a chance that cures have been suppressed, that patients have died unnecessarily, then I can't stay silent." Dr. Senna's patterns flickered between orange and blue, determination and fear. "Also, I've watched Maya crystallize for 3 years. I've held her hand during painful treatments and told her there's no hope while wondering if I was lying. I need to know the truth as much as you do." "Thank you," Kyle managed, his voice thick. "Don't thank me. Succeed. And Kyle, if you find evidence, make sure it goes public, not just to whoever contacted you, but everywhere. Truth only matters if people see it. She turned to leave, then paused. Commander Vex is a good man, but good men can be wrong. Sometimes the system they trust is broken, and loyalty becomes complicity. Remember that when doubt creeps in. She disappeared down the corridor, leaving Kyle alone with the vault door and 0300 approaching like a countdown to disaster. The security rotation changed precisely on time. Kyle felt it through the vibrations in the floor, the subtle shift in the station's rhythm as guards moved to new positions. He had 4 minutes now, maybe 5 if he was lucky. He closed his eyes, feeling the quantum barrier's pulse. 12.3 seconds, 12.2. Timing had to be perfect. He'd practiced phase shifting for years, but never through active quantum barriers designed to kill intruders. His ability flickered as doubt crept in. What if he miscalculated? What if he solidified halfway through? Maya's face flashed through his mind, transparent fingers waving goodbye. 3 years of love compressed into months, then weeks, then days. Vex's face followed. Disappointment and understanding mixed together, the father who'd saved him now becoming his enemy by Kyle's own choice. The barriers pulsed. 12 seconds. 11. 10. Kyle let his fear exist without controlling him. Fear was information. It told him this was dangerous, that consequences were real, that nothing would be the same after. But fear didn't have to be decisive. 3 seconds. 2. 1. He phased. Reality became suggestions rather than rules. His body shifted into impossible states, matter that was and wasn't simultaneously. The quantum barrier washed over him, trying to detect, trying to solidify, trying to kill. But he slipped through during the reset window, 0.7 seconds of vulnerability in an otherwise perfect defense. The vault interior was smaller than he'd expected. Walls of data crystals storing terabytes of classified information, glowing with contained light. The data core interface dominated the center, a holographic terminal requiring biometric authentication and security codes he didn't have. But he didn't need them. Phasability let him interact with data at the quantum level, accessing information encoded in crystal matrices without triggering security protocols. Theoretically, he'd never actually tried it. Kyle pressed his hand against the nearest data crystal, letting his phase shift extend into its structure. Information flooded his senses. Not visual but felt, like reading through touch. Military deployment schedules, civilian identity databases, diplomatic communications, all bleeding together in overwhelming chaos. He pulled back, gasping. Too much, too fast. He needed to filter, to focus specifically on medical research archives. Dr. Senna's directions, subsection Theta 7. He found it after 30 seconds of searching, 30 seconds closer to security detecting the breach. The medical archives were massive, decades of research compressed into crystalline storage. Kyle filtered for crystal plague, for suppressed studies, for anything that supported or disproved the conspiracy. The data that emerged made his breath catch. Research projects from 23 years ago, exploring non-invasive synthesis procedures that could cure crystal plague without harvesting consciousness. Initial results promising, showing 97% success rates, then suddenly terminated. No explanation. Just discontinued by medical council directive. Scientists involved reassigned to distant facilities. Several died under suspicious circumstances, classified as accidents, but with investigation files sealed. Families of the researchers paid substantial settlement fees contingent on signing non-disclosure agreements. The pattern wasn't subtle once you saw it. Someone had deliberately buried a cure. Kyle accessed deeper files, finding the actual research data. The cure worked by using synthesized neural templates rather than extracted ones, basically printing new neural pathways using patient DNA as a blueprint. No consciousness extraction needed, no ethical violations, just expensive, requiring technology the medical council considered too costly. The cost analysis was there too, buried in financial projections. Treating crystal plague generated approximately 4.6 billion credits annually across the galactic sectors. Curing it would eliminate that revenue stream. The medical council's recommendation, classify the cure as experimental and economically unfeasible, continue profitable treatment protocols indefinitely. Kyle felt sick. Maya was dying for profit margins. Millions had died for profit margins. The conspiracy theorists were right, and that somehow made it worse. He began downloading everything. Dr. Senna's chip absorbing data faster than his mind could process. Security alarms shrieked to life. Red lights flooded the vault as automated systems detected his presence. His 4 minutes were up. Kyle finished the download and phased toward the door just as it sealed shut. Quantum barriers activated at full strength. No reset windows, no vulnerabilities. He was trapped. His communicator crackled, Vex's voice heavy with sorrow. KL, stop. You can't phase through the barriers now. They're actively hunting for matter distortions. You'll die if you try. I got the evidence, Kyle said, his voice steadier than he felt. The cure exists. They buried it deliberately. Maya and millions of others died for money. Even if that's true, stealing classified data is still treason. You'll spend your life in prison. Better than spending it knowing I could have helped but chose comfort. Kyle studied the barriers, watching them pulse and adapt. There's always a pattern, Commander. You taught me that. Every defense has a weakness if you're willing to look hard enough. Kyle, please, don't throw your life away. We'll find another way to expose this. Legitimate channels. Proper investigations. How long will that take? Months? Years? Maya has days. Kyle's phasability flickered as he tested the barriers, feeling their rhythm. You told me you lived with your choice poorly. That some days you think you prevented future tragedies through learning. Other days you just rationalized murder. I don't want to live like that, Commander. I'd rather fail trying than succeed at surrender. You sound like your mother, Vex said quietly. She had the same stubborn certainty that some things were worth any cost. It got her killed. My mother died from crystal plague that could have been cured. She died because people chose profit over principle. If that's the system you want me to trust, I'd rather be a criminal. Kyle found the pattern he was looking for, a microscopic gap where barriers overlapped. It would require threading phase-shifted matter through a space smaller than his smallest molecule, essentially becoming pure energy for 0.03 seconds. The odds of success were effectively zero. I'm coming in, Vex said, his voice carrying the weight of watching his son commit suicide. Don't. If you breach the vault now, you'll be complicit. They'll strip your command, investigate everything you've ever done. All those kids you saved, all that good you've done, it'll be questioned and dissected and used against you. Kyle positioned himself at the barrier overlap, feeling the lethal energy crackling inches from his face. You taught me that family protects each other. So let me protect you by keeping you clean of this, by dying in a quantum barrier, by succeeding despite impossible odds. You also taught me that... Kyle closed his eyes, feeling his phase ability extend beyond his body, mapping the microscopic gap with senses he barely understood. Commander, Dad, I need you to do something for me. When I get out, when security catches me, make sure Dr. Senna gets this data chip. Make sure it goes public, not just to the authorities, but everywhere. Every news feed, every public database. Truth only matters if people see it. Kyle, promise me. Whatever happens, the evidence gets out. Maya and everyone else who died deserve that much. Silence stretched between them, measured in heartbeats and quantum pulses. Finally, Vex spoke, his voice breaking slightly. I promise. But Kale, for what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Terrified and angry and heartbroken, but proud. You're braver than I ever was. I learned from the best. Kyle opened his eyes, phase ability burning through him like lightning. Time to see if courage beats physics. He didn't give himself time to reconsider. His body shifted, not just transparent but fundamental, breaking down into component particles that existed in probabilistic states rather than fixed locations. Pain exploded through every nerve as he threaded through the barrier gap, literally too small to exist but existing anyway through sheer desperate will. The barriers tried to collapse, to solidify the impossible matter passing through their defenses. Kyle felt himself dying and living simultaneously, caught between states. Then he was through, collapsing on the corridor floor in solid form, every molecule screaming. Blood ran from his nose, his ears, his eyes. The phase shift had pushed beyond safe limits, maybe beyond survivable limits. But he was out. Security guards rounded the corner, weapons drawn. Freeze! Hands where we can see them! Kyle raised his shaking hands, still clutching Doctor. Senna's data chip. I need medical attention. And I need this delivered to Dr. Senna in the medical bay. It's evidence of medical council conspiracy. Proof that crystal plague has a cure they've been suppressing. The guard captain, a Thorian named Rax with stone-like skin, approached cautiously. You're under arrest for unauthorized access to classified systems, theft of secure data, and about 15 other charges. You have the right to remain silent. I waive that right. I stole security codes to access the Obsidian data core because my sister is dying from a disease that has a cure. A cure the medical council buried 23 years ago because treatment is more profitable than healing. Everything's on this chip. Documented research, financial analysis, sealed investigation files. Check it before you dismiss me as a desperate kid making things up. Rax took the chip, studying Kyle with unreadable stone eyes. That's a serious accusation. It's a serious crime. Millions dead for profit margins. My sister dying because shareholders matter more than people. Kyle swayed, his vision blurring. I'm prepared for prison. I just need you to verify the data. Make sure it reaches people who can act on it. Please. Even if you hate me, even if I deserve everything coming to me, don't let this information die because of procedure. Get him to medical, Rax ordered his team. Full security protocols. No visitors without my authorization. As guards lifted Kyle, his communicator crackled one last time. Maya's voice, terrified. Kyle, I heard alarms. What happened? I got it, he managed. The evidence. The cure exists. They buried it, just like you said. Are you okay? You sound wrong. I'm fine. Little phase through quantum barriers damage, nothing permanent. He tried to laugh, but it came out as a cough. You're going to live, Maya. I don't know how yet, but you're going to live. That's all that matters. You matter, you stubborn idiot. Her voice broke. I told you not to do anything heroic and stupid. I'm your brother. Heroic and stupid is literally my job description. The guards carried him toward medical, consciousness fading at the edges. His last thought before darkness claimed him was hoping that bravery and truth were enough, that consequences could be survived, that maybe he'd made the right impossible choice. Kyle woke in the medical bay's secure ward, his body aching like he'd been torn apart and reassembled incorrectly. Dr. Senna stood over him, her crystalline form refracting the harsh lights into rainbow patterns. Welcome back. You've been unconscious for 18 hours. Your phase ability essentially destroyed and rebuilt your cellular structure. You're lucky to be alive. Did you get the chip? Kyle's throat felt like shredded glass. Did the evidence reach anyone? It reached everyone. Dr. Senna pulled up a holographic display showing news feeds from across the galactic sectors. Headlines screamed conspiracy, cover-up, medical crimes. Commander Vex uploaded everything to every major news network simultaneously. By the time authorities tried to suppress it, 3 billion people had already downloaded copies. You can't unpublish truth once it's everywhere. Kyle watched footage of protests outside medical council facilities, families holding photos of crystal plague victims. Is it real? Could you verify the research? Every file, every formula, every financial projection, it's all legitimate. Dr. Senna's patterns flickered between triumph and grief. The cure works exactly as documented. We've already begun synthesizing it using the suppressed specifications. Initial trials show 98% success rates, even better than the original research suggested. Maya received the first dose 3 hours ago. Is she responding beautifully? The crystallization is reversing. She'll make a complete recovery within 6 weeks. Dr. Senna sat on the edge of his bed. You saved her, KL. You saved millions. The medical council is under criminal investigation, leadership has resigned, and the Galactic Assembly is drafting legislation to make treatment suppression a capital crime. Relief flooded through him so intense it hurt worse than the phase damage. What about Commander Vex? Is he in trouble for releasing the data? He's being investigated for procedural violations, but public opinion is overwhelmingly supportive. They're calling him a hero for exposing corruption. Most likely outcome is a formal reprimand and promotion. Dr. Senna's expression grew serious. Now the bad news. You're still under arrest. The crimes you committed to obtain this evidence are still crimes. The data's legitimacy doesn't erase how you acquired it. I know. I made peace with prison when I went through that vault door. Prison might be optimistic. Some officials want to make an example, charge you with treason, maximum penalties. She paused. Others argue you're a whistleblower who exposed systemic corruption. It's going to trial, probably a very public, very complicated trial. Your life for the next few years will be legal battles and media scrutiny. Kyle closed his eyes, exhaustion pulling at him. As long as Maya lives, I can handle anything. She wants to see you. I've been keeping her out because you needed rest, but she's been camped outside this ward for 16 hours. Very insistent. Can she visit? Technically, no. You're in secure custody. Dr. Senna moved to the door. But technically, I need to check something in the storage room for the next 15 minutes. If a patient happened to wander in while I was gone, I might not notice immediately. She left, and moments later, Maya burst through the door. Her crystallization was visibly receding, her arm more solid than it had been in months. She threw herself at Kyle, careful of his injuries, but unable to stop herself. "You absolute idiot," she sobbed into his shoulder. "You beautiful, stupid, heroic idiot. I told you not to do anything like this. You also told me dying with meaning was better than dying without it. I decided living with consequences was better than living with regret." Kyle held her carefully, feeling her solidity return, proof that impossible choices sometimes worked. "I'm so sorry. For the danger, for the legal trouble, for everything that's coming." "Sorry? Kyle, you saved my life. You saved millions of lives. You exposed corruption that's been killing people for decades." Maya pulled back, her eyes fierce despite the tears. "I don't care about legal trouble or media attention or any of it. You're alive, I'm alive, and truth won. That's all that matters. I might go to prison, then I'll visit every day. I'll write letters, send care packages, campaign for your release. We survived Crystal Plague. We can survive the legal system." They sat together in silence, brother and sister who'd chosen each other over blood, who'd survived impossible odds through stubborn love. Finally, Maya spoke quietly. "Commander Vex came by earlier. He wanted me to tell you something if you woke up." "What?" "He said 30 years ago he made a choice that haunted him forever. But you made a different choice. You didn't just save one person, you saved the system. You prove that sometimes. Breaking rules serves justice better than following them blindly. He said he's proud, and he's sorry he couldn't see another way." Kyle felt tears burning his eyes. Is he okay? Angry at himself mostly. Angry that he was so loyal to the system that he couldn't see its corruption. Angry that it took his 12-year-old son to expose what he should have questioned years ago. Maya squeezed his hand. "But he's fighting for you. Using every contact, calling in every favor, arguing that you're a whistleblower protected by conscience statutes. He won't let you face this alone." The days that followed blurred together. Legal proceedings, media interviews, public debates about civil disobedience and institutional corruption. Kyle became a symbol, interpreted differently depending on who was speaking, hero to some, criminal to others, catalyst for reform to most. The trial lasted 3 months. In the end, the verdict was complicated, like everything else. Guilty of unauthorized access and theft of classified data, sentenced to 2 years supervised rehabilitation instead of prison. The judge cited his age, his motivations, and the undeniable public good that resulted from his actions. "You broke the law," the judge said in her final statement, "but you also broke open a conspiracy that had killed millions. Justice requires acknowledging both truths." 2 years later, Kyle stood in the observation deck where he'd once contemplated impossible choices. Maya beside him, fully recovered, crystallization reversed completely. Commander Vex on his other side, colors shifting to peaceful green. "I've been thinking," Kyle said, watching stars that had witnessed everything. "About?" Maya asked. "About how we decide what's right when the systems we trust are broken. About how far we should go to help people, and what we lose along the way." "Deep thoughts for a 14-year-old, Vex said, but his tone was gentle, proud. "I learned from complicated teachers." Kyle smiled. "You taught me to follow rules. Maya taught me to question them. Together, you taught me that sometimes the hardest choices are the most necessary ones." "And what will you teach others?" Maya asked. "That courage means accepting consequences before you act. That truth matters more than comfort. That family is whoever stands beside you when everything's impossible." Kyle turned from the stars to face them both, and that sometimes saving one person changes everything. The stars burned on, indifferent witnesses to human choices and consequences, but in that observation deck, Three people who'd survived impossible odds stood together, proof that love and courage and stubborn determination could reshape even the most broken systems. The galaxy was different now, better in ways that rippled outward from one desperate choice in a quantum vault. And Kyle, the crystal thief who'd stolen truth instead of treasure, had finally found peace with the person he'd become.